Hey, Chaotic Crew, Brian here, and we're going over these Edge of Eternity Precon Commander decks. We're gonna have a fun time with this one. Really cool how these Commander decks are led by spaceships rather than creatures, although they have an alternate creature in there that you could switch to be your main commander there. But we're also going to be giving away one of these commander decks of your choice anywhere in the US. Just make sure you comment on both videos. For this video, obviously you saw the thumbnail, so we're going over the Jeskai Counterintelligence Precon. Let me know your favorite space-themed movie that isn't Star Trek or Star Wars. I don't know about favorite, but Event Horizon always seems to stick in my head. So that's probably what I would put here. But leave a comment down below what your favorite space-themed movie is that isn't Star Trek or Star Wars. And, make sure you comment on the next video as well. And then on the 25th, which should be a week from when the next Commander Precon upgrade video comes out, we will be live on our Twitch channel, twitch.tv/chaoticcommandermtg, and we'll be live at 9:30 Central Time in the evening, so make sure to check that out and see who wins the Precon giveaway. But let's dive right into this deck. We've got Counterintelligence, so it's really about putting counters on things, whether it's +1/+1 counters or charge counters on artifacts, which is really cool. And there's a lot of ways to proliferate in the deck as well. So first up, we've got In Spirit, Flagship Vessel, 3 mana for just a legendary artifact, Spacecraft. And you might be thinking, Brian, there's no text on here that says this card can be your commander. Well, in this new set, Edge of Eternities, they have made it so that legendary spacecraft and legendary vehicles that have a power and toughness on the card can be your commander. So that's super cool here. And I honestly really wish they had 5 of these spaceship commanders, of the decks. Just because it's really cool to have like your deck helmed by a spaceship. I think the idea is interesting, and there's only so many that are being printed out in the new set that actually have any colors at all. So I'm really hoping they print some more in the main set that have 3 different color combinations. But In Spirit here though, a pretty neat card. So all spacecrafts have the station mechanic. You tap another creature you control, put a charge counter equal to its power onto the spacecraft, station only as a sorcery. It's an artifact creature at 8+. So at 1+, though, In Spirit just becomes an artifact with the ability, at the beginning of combat on your turn, put your choice of a +1/+1 counter or 2 charge counters on up to 1 other target artifact. So this is good to buff creatures that you have, or maybe to, get a lot of charge counters on your artifacts. And so this kind of leans, I think, more towards that charge counter synergy. And then of course it has 8+, it's a 5/5 flyer. Other artifacts you control have hexproof and indestructible. So pretty much mainly focusing on that first ability, just having a very big value artifact. Honestly, this something that gives you a +1/+1 counter each turn or 2 charge counters is not something that your opponents are going to be like, ooh, I need to kill this right away. Right? They're gonna have more important things. They're gonna want to save their removal for the things you're putting the counters on, right? So I think In Spirit is actually one of the best commanders to come out of the set because it's gonna fly under the radar and give you so much value, and your opponents are gonna wonder like how you got so far ahead. Like, you know what I mean? Like, this is one of those commanders that is just so sneaky. So yeah, I really like it a lot here. But more new cards here. We have Insight Engine, which is a 3 mana artifact. You pay 2, tap it, put a charge counter on it, then you draw a card for each charge counter on it. So this is just going to draw you a ton of cards here. Honestly, just have, put one or, do your commander on its ability 1 time, and then you're just going to keep drawing more and more and more cards every time you use it. Uthros Research Craft is really neat. 3 mana for another spacecraft, and it has station when it gets 3+ power station to it. Whenever you cast an artifact spell, you draw a card. Then you put a charge counter on this spacecraft. So It's really cool. It's like a Beast Whisperer almost, you know, or Jwaira, right? Weatherlight Captain. Casting an artifact spell, you're drawing a card, and then it also makes this get closer to being, you know, an actual creature. And when you get 12 plus power or charge counter stationed on it, it's a 0/8 flying that gets +1/+0 for each artifact you control, which is going to be a lot. Long range sensor, 3 mana for an artifact. Whenever you attack a player, put a charge counter on this artifact. Then you can pay 1 and remove 2 charge counters to discover 4, only as a sorcery. This card's going to be great in a lot of decks, I feel like, not just this one, but you know, you can literally have your commander put 2 charge counters on this and then pay 1 mana to discover 4. So very, very cool there, and you just get lots of value from this card. Moxite Refinery is a neat one. It's essentially moving the counters from different cards. You know, you can pay 2, tap it, remove X counters from an artifact or creature. Then, you know, you choose 1, you put X charge counters on target artifact or X 1/1 counters on target creature. This is cool. I'm not sure how amazing it is, you know. Typically you're going to be making the right decisions, right? And it kind of feels like a, you know, either you made the wrong decision, or for whatever, like in the very niche case, you know, what was the right decision ended up being the wrong decision based off what your opponents played. But it's only as a sorcery, so it's not like you can do any combat shenanigans on this or anything, which would have been, I felt like, better. But yeah, no, I mean, it's a cool card nevertheless. Solar Array, another new card, 3 mana rock, and it taps to add a mana of any color. When you next cast an artifact spell this turn, that spell gains Sunburst. So Sunburst is a mechanic that when it enters the battlefield, it gets X +1/+1 counters for each different color of mana spent to cast it. So in, you know, a deck that has 3 colors, you can have 3 counters on whatever comes in. But this is fun because you can cast an artifact spell that gets the +1/+1 counters, but, you know, maybe it's an artifact that it's not a creature and it only has charge counters. So that's where Moxite Refinery can step in here. Cloud Key is a great reprint. 3 mana as it enters, choose artifact, creature, enchantment, instant, or sorcery. We're going to choose artifact in this deck 10 times out of 10. And spells you cast the chosen type cost 1 less to cast, which is great. Gavel the Righteous, a great reprint here. An equipment that deals with charge counters. And at the beginning of your combat, you put a charge counter on it. It gets +1/+1 for each counter on it, and if it has 4 or more counters on it, the equipped creature has double strike. And then to equip it, you just need to pay 3 mana or remove a counter from the equipment. So very, very strong card in this deck. Can really just, you know, out of nowhere kill your opponents. Just have this on the battlefield and then equip it to your commander and hit him in for 20. Very cool there. Astral Cornucopia, really neat. You know, obviously you could put it in for 0 and then with your commander's ability, put 2 charge counters on it, can already tap for 2 color. But it enters with X charge counters and then you tap, choose a color, add 1 mana of that color for each charge counter on this artifact. So Astral Cornucopia can just get way out of hand, right? Very cool there. Darksteel Reactor is a neat card. I think a lot of people, when they first saw this commander, or, you know, the other commander of this deck, the alternate commander, they were like, what's going on here? Darksteel Reactor would be really great in this deck. It's a 4 mana indestructible artifact. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may put a charge counter on it. When this artifact has 20 or more charge counters on it, you win the game. Not the biggest fan of this card. I think this is a big, you know, make you the target kind of card, right? Everyone's gonna see this and be like, "Oh, we need to kill Brian," right? So I don't love this. It just paints a big target on her back, but it is a neat card and a, you know, kind of a bucket list way to win a game of Magic, I guess. Empowered Auto Generator is a great mana rock. Enters tapped, and you put charge counters on it and get, you know, mana of any color, so it's really nice there. Lux Artillery is super cool. Whenever you cast an artifact creature spell, it gains Sunburst. At the beginning of your end step, if there are 30 or more counters among artifacts and creatures you control, this artifact deals 10 damage to each opponent. So this deck is not going to have an issue because it's dealing with charge counters and +1/+1 counters, so having your creatures get Sunburst is very helpful as well. Then you have Lux Cannon, which can destroy any permanent, which is repeatable. Just gotta get more charge counters on it. Titan Forge is nice. You can pay 3 to put a charge counter on it, and then you can remove 3 charge counters to make a 9/9 golem. You have Arcane Signet, obviously, for ramp. Pentad Prism is a 2 mana Oh, I didn't realize that Sunburst also gives you charge counters. If it's a non-creature spell, and not +1/+1 counters if it's a creature. That's super cool. So it kind of works either way. So this is a neat little thing here. But essentially, you get charge counters on it, and you remove a charge counter to add 1 mana of any color. So if you can keep proliferating this, then you're kind of in business, right? Or keep putting charge counters on it. The thing is, we have a lot of things that want charge counters, and our commander can only trigger once each combat. So if we can find a way to trigger our commander multiple times, or get a lot of proliferate triggers on this deck, then that's really helpful. Soul Ring, Everflowing Chalice, also great. Golem Foundry, just a smaller version of, Titan Forge. Golem Foundry is just, you don't have to pay any mana to get the charge counters. It's just whenever you cast artifact spells. So, pretty neat there. And then you remove 3 charge counters from this artifact, create a 3/3 colorless golem artifact creature token. So you'll make 3/3s, not 9/9s, but a lot easier to make them. And then Soul Guide Lantern's good graveyard hate in the deck as well. I can draw you a card. It helps put the other commander deck at bay, right? Just a, you shouldn't win this game kind of card. Well, back to the creature, and we have the alternate commander of the deck, Kilo, Apogee Mind, 3 mana 3/3 with haste. Whenever Kilo becomes tapped, proliferate. So this is kind of how one of the better proliferate engines of the deck. How are you going to tap Kilo super easily? Well, the easiest way is to station your commander. Tapping another creature is a cost. So, if you don't have any counters on it yet, and you tap your commander, or you tap Kilo for your commander, you're not going to get anything proliferated. Well, the proliferate trigger is going to happen before you actually add any of the charge counters onto Inspirit. So that is something to keep in mind there. But that is the best way to tap Kilo, all right? That is really great there. But, you could build a deck off of Kilo as well and just make a little bit of a combo thing, or you could have a, I think both of these commanders would be really great in like a spacecraft themed deck, or, even with, different kind of like +1/+1 counters. Lots of fun strategies you can go with this deck. Patrolling Peacemaker is a new card. 3 mana, 0/0, enters with 2 1/1 counters on it. Whenever an opponent commits a crime, proliferate. So committing a crime came out in the Western set, Thunder Junction, and basically it's saying when your opponent targets any player that isn't themselves with a spell or ability, you proliferate. So, a very strong card here. Kind of like a Dreamtide Whale in the sense that it's going to be proliferating a lot. Depth Shaker Titan is a new finisher. It makes your artifacts that are non-creatures become 3/3 artifact creatures when it enters, but you sacrifice them at the beginning of the next end step. So you choose which ones become creatures. And then each artifact creature you control has melee, trample, and haste. So ideally, they're going to all be getting +3/+3 because you're going to attack all your opponents. Or maybe they all attack one. But yeah, sacrificing them all at the end is not ideal. This will get melee, trample, and haste as well. So it'll essentially be an 8/8 trample with haste, and giving your other creatures a bunch as well. And you're only sacrificing the creatures that get, whatever. So, but if you don't make any of your non-creature artifacts creatures, you're only getting melee, trample, and haste, which I guess is a +3/+3 trample and haste for 7 mana, which I don't like in this deck. If I'm gonna be completely honest, the math doesn't make sense to me. As someone who tries to think about it logically. Surge Conductor, another new card, 3 mana, 3/2. Whenever another non-token artifact you control enters, proliferate. Love it. Angel of the Ruins, just fantastic removal. Chrome Seed Shark is interesting. I've been thinking about taking this one out, but it's actually a decent blocker. 2/4 flyer. And then whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you incubate X, where X is the mana value. So you're just going to get a lot of incubate tokens, and there are a lot of artifacts that will just, help you out and build value. Some cards care about artifacts, whether it's affinity or, you can move the +1/+1 counters from this one with the, with the Moxite Refinery to really, put a bunch of counters or charge counters on your other artifacts. So it's really nice there. So I like it. Cyber Drive Awakener is honestly just a better version of Depth Shaker Titan. Sure, you're not getting that much of a power boost, and in some cases with Cyberdrive Awakener, you're going to be getting like less power, right? You know, when it enters, each non-creature artifact becomes a 4/4 artifact. I say less because, you know, sometimes I run this in like Shorekai or something, and it'll turn my creature that could be an 8/8 into a 4/4. Now keep in mind, when you have abilities like this for the vehicles, you actually don't get the abilities on the vehicles unless you have those charge counters already. So like, if you have a charge counter and you have that first ability on our commander and you turn it into a 4/4 creature with Cyberdrive Awakener, it's not going to get the other artifacts you control of Hexproof, Indestructible. So something to keep in mind there. But Cyberdrive Awakener is still really good for this deck. We have a lot of non-creature artifacts that this can help kill 1 or 2 people when it enters, so very nice there. Deep Glow Skate, a fantastic card in here because it's going to double each kind of counter on any number of permanents we control. So all those charge counters, all those plus and counters are going way up. Emery's neat too because has affinity, so usually going to cost 1 mana. She mills 4 cards, and then you can cast cards from your graveyard with Emery, which is really nice in this deck. Kappa Cannoneer is great. Just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger and be unblockable, so really neat there. Phyrexian Metamorph, an artifact that can enter as a copy of an artifact or creature on the battlefield. So very nice there. Tekuthal Inquiry Dominus is going to proliferate us a second time each time we proliferate, and then you can make it indestructible to make it a really great blocker. Thought Monitor draws us a couple cards. Alabu is, you know, getting all of our artifact creatures haste, and pretty much going to scry us a bunch and deal a bunch of damage whenever we attack in. Just a great reprint here overall. We talked about Dwyer Weatherite Captain and drawing cards earlier, which is nice. Crystalline Crawler. I cannot speak. Crystalline Crawler. Said that 5 times fast. 4 mana, 1/1. Enters with a 1/1 counter on it for each color of mana spent to cast it. So kind of like Sunburst, but not quite. And then you remove a 1/1 counter from it to add 1 mana of any color, and you can tap it to put a 1/1 counter on it. So very great in proliferate strategies, right? Giving you the color you need and continuing to, you know, essentially tap for 1 or maybe multiple mana a turn, and, you know, be able to sustain that is really nice there. Hangerback Walker is interesting. XX for 0/0, just a big 1/1 counter thing, and when it dies you make a ton of Thopters, but I don't know, I'm not the biggest fan of Hangerback Walker, for being honest. Steel Overseer, nice, just gives all your creatures +1/+1 counters, so great to have in a deck that cares about +1/+1 counters and artifacts. Speaking of, Threefold Thunderhulk, a big mana drop here from a recent set. 7 mana to enter with 3 1/1 counters, so it's just a 3/3. But when it enters or attacks, you create a number of 1/1 gnomes equal to its power. So when it enters, you'll make 3 gnomes, and then when you start attacking and you can proliferate a lot, you'll make a ton of gnomes. So very strong there. And then you can sacrifice another artifact to put a +1/+1 counter on it. So really neat. Therium Sculptor and Enthusiastic Mechanaut help our artifact spells cost less. Thumbing Bird is a good, you know, just repeatable proliferate engine. Core Tapper, you know, repeatable putting charge counters. And if someone board wipes, you can sacrifice it, put 2 charge counters on an artifact as well. Etched Oracle is interesting. It's a 4 mana 0/0 that will enter with counters equal to number of colors spent to cast it, and then you can pay 1 to remove 4 counters to have target player draw 3 cards. So that's neat as well. Mindless Automaton is the last creature. Enters with 2 counters. You can put more counters on it, and then you can remove 2 counters to draw cards. So that is always nice. On to the lands are next, which is interesting. There's a new land, Glittering Massive, excuse me. Just a mountain plains that enters tapped and has a cycling. And then the other one that is new, Radiant Summit. Oh, they were just at the top. The landers are tapped to let you control 2 more basic lands. Just 2 more Mountain Plains cards. The other deck has 2 more Swamp Forest cards as well. So just cards that were, you know, completing a cycle, kind of. But yeah, I think lands are pretty nice here. They have 40, which I think is a lot for this deck. I'm probably going to take out a few. They're not all the best here. Instance, we have Swan Song, which is an awesome reprint, and love the new art here. Chaos Warp, same thing there as well. Pull from tomorrow draws you cards, then discards a card. Rebels of Potential, another fantastic reprint to protect your board. It proliferates, and each permanent that had a counter permanent on this way phase out, which is fantastic. Swords is great. Thirst for Knowledge, also a solid card draw. Dispatch, also great removal in here. And then Experimental Augury to, fix the top card of your library and proliferate. I like that here. As far as sorceries, we got Fumigate, Organic Extinction, Chain Reaction. I don't love these board wipes, not gonna lie. Universal Surveillance, another way to draw a card, but you can tap your artifacts to help cast it, but it's a sorcery, so something to keep in mind there. Wake the Past is great, getting all these artifacts out of our graveyard. And then Tezzret's Gambit draws us cards and proliferates. So good there. Resourceful Defense, essentially making it so that when our commander dies, the charge counters it had, or when any artifact dies, the charge counters it had puts on another target permanent, and then you can also move it with paying a bunch of mana. So a really fun deck. Let's dive into the 10 cards we're going to take out, and then 10 cards we're going to put in. All right, so you heard me talk about a lot. Depth Shaker Titan is an interesting one here. Basically, you're putting a lot of your things at risk, and you could totally get blown out with a Teferi's or an Angel's Grace or whatever. Lose a lot of the artifacts you're going to be putting into this, because you don't really get the most value off of Depth Shaker unless you're making some of your artifacts into these, creatures, right? Taking that out, Etched Oracle, we have better ways to draw cards in this deck, and we don't really need, another 4-mana creature, right? Hangerback Walker as well, sure, it's nice, but we have no way to sack it. If we had a way to abuse this, right, and make sure we get a ton of Thopters easily ourselves, then I say go for it, but, yeah, I don't know there. I took out Chain Reaction and Organic Extinction. I kept Fumigate just as a life gain. I always like a little bit of life gain in our decks. And Chain Reaction's a damage-based board wipe, which can get blown out by protection or something else like that. Organic Extinction also, there's so many artifact creatures nowadays that I never feel like Organic Extinction is a one-sided board wipe. It could be. It's very possible. I mean, I think the odds are technically that based out of all the commander decks anyone can have in their life, but there's so many good staple artifact creatures like Esper Sentinel, stuff like that, and this doesn't deal with those, right? So I decided to take it out. Pull from Tomorrow, we don't really need another massive draw spell. We have one in there already, and there's a bunch of cards that do draw cards, but I don't think we need Pull from Tomorrow. It is an instant, which is nice, but I don't like discarding the card either, so yeah, I mean, there's something to say about that. I don't know, I decided to take it out. So I got Darksteel Reactor as well, because it's a big target on our back, and we really love our commander for being subtle and not being very threatening until it's kind of too late. I was going to go Golem Boundary. You could take out the Titan one as well that makes 9/9s, because whatever, but if you have enough proliferate engines, the 9/9 generator is honestly really great. Golem Boundary making 3/3s is alright, but not as good, right? It's just a little bit, just making a bunch of 3/3s isn't doing us a ton. And then I took out Lonely Sandbar and Secluded Steppe. Don't really need these cycling lands. Bring the land count to 38, and even then that might be too many lands, right? So you could argue I can maybe take out some more cards here. But tell me in the comments below what cards you would take out and what you'd put in. The cards I'm putting in, though, we're going to start with, and I put Kilo here just because they didn't have the spaceship in Moxfield yet, so ignore that. I put Kaith, Fiend Mechanist, in here. Kaith is interesting. Fabricate 1, so whenever it enters, you either give it a 1/1 counter or you make a 1/1 servo. So if you care more about having artifacts, the servo is great. If you care more about 1/1 counters, then that's great. And then it gives other non-token creatures you control Fabricate. And we had 35 creatures? So a lot of creatures in the deck. Giving them all Fabricate, giving them all enter with a 1/1 counter, and a deck that cares about 1/1 counters is nice. You can also pay 2 and tap Kaith to proliferate, so or populate, whichever one you prefer. So if you want to make a 9/9 Titan, that's great, or if you just want to proliferate, which you usually want to proliferate, is great as well. I put Dreamtide Whale in here. Another card that's going to be proliferating so much in this deck, and a deck that cares about proliferation, right? Being able to make these spaceships into creatures without having to tap so many creatures is great. But also, Dreamtide Whale by itself can literally make our commander a creature. Like, play the commander, then play Dreamtide Whale the next turn, tap Dreamtide Whale to give it 7 charge counters, and then your opponent's going to proliferate it up to 8, so then it'll be a creature on your opponent's turn. It'll be a 5/5, and then all your other artifacts will become hexproof, which is great. As per Sentinel, an artifact drawing card engine, and it can be buffed by your commander. It can crew your commander to turn station on, and then it can be buffed to essentially make your opponents have to pay more, or you're going to draw cards. So very, very good synergy here. Filigree Vector, this card has been rising in price. It came in the Orzhov March of the Machines commander deck that cared about Phyrexians and about the incubate tokens. But what's really cool is Filigree Vector was a card that when it enters, it puts a +1/+1 counter on each of any number of target creatures and charge counter on each of any number of target artifacts. So we're literally doing what this deck wants to be doing, which is kind of crazy. And then you pay 1 tap, sacrifice another artifact to proliferate. So just a couple other proliferate cards in here, and honestly, this deck does so well. Goldforge Thopteryx, I also wanted to get in there. It's another card that turns on our commander immediately, and it also gives it Ward 2, which is nice, and it also has Flying and Lifelink, so we can give it counters if we don't have anything else to put charge counters on, and so it's really nice there. It can be a decent blocker early on in the game. I thought it would be solid there. Supreme Verdict, I added in as a board wipe. The board wipes we have in this deck are not amazing, and I would definitely recommend maybe even taking out Fumigate, adding in another board wipe, but Supreme Verdict is tried and true, can't be countered, destroy all creatures. And what's great is that, you know, if our commander is not a creature, it doesn't destroy our commander, right? We have a lot of cards that aren't creatures that this won't touch, so that's very good there. Energy Chamber, which is an older card, very cool here. Beginning of your upkeep, you put a 1/1 counter on target artifact creature, or you put a charge counter on target non-creature artifact. So already just doing everything our deck wants to do. It's only 1 a turn, which isn't amazing, but it's still really good. For 2 mana, getting 1 of those a turn is not bad. So, you know, obviously, say a game lasts 8 turns. If you get this out turn 2, you probably not have anything of value to get it on turn 3, but you will the rest of the turn. You'll get, like, you know, 5 or 6 uses out of it. So 2 mana for 5 or 6 counters is not bad at all. If you have this later on in the game, maybe it's not amazing, but the earlier you can get this out, the better here. Put Manifold Key in. It's a really cheap include, a budget upgrade, if you will. Being able to untap artifacts or making it not be able to be blocked. I mean, we're tapping things to, you know, essentially crew that spacecraft. What's really great, if you have Kilo, this works really well with Kilo as well. But just being able to untap other artifacts, maybe it's lands or, you know, mana rocks that we have going on, that could be really good there and give us a little bit of extra mana. Unwinding Clock, similar, right? We're going to be doing a lot of tapping in this deck, but also a lot of our mana is artifacts, even lands, right? So being able to untap them each upkeep is great to hold up some answers. And then I added Norn's Decree, another card from the this one is from the you know, Phyrexian Abzan deck that was in the All Will Be One. But Norn's Decree is interesting. It is a poison card, and it may get you hate, but you could argue that your opponents are putting the poison counters on themselves by attacking you. It is a strong deterrent to not attack you, and then you can proliferate those poison counters, so they are very much aware of that. And then it's card draw, right? It is card draw, and you can be like, hey, you can make deals to say, I'm never going to proliferate that poison counter unless you attack me again, then I'm going to start proliferating that. So very fun there. This will get hated, but it won't necessarily make you the target. It actually kind of deter you from getting attacked unless your opponents can kill you. And then they're like, might as well just get rid of you, right? Because I'm only going to get 1 poison counter for this, and you can just die. So that is something to keep in mind, but I think this adds a thick layer of of politics to the board, and I really love it a lot in this deck. Well, those are it. The 10 cards I'm taking out, the 10 cards I'm putting in, and there's definitely a lot more you could do with the deck too. But it looks super fun. I think I like this one the most out of the 2 precons, but super excited to go over the Jund Swarm precon as well. Make sure to keep an eye out on that video, like and subscribe if you like the content, and so you don't miss out on the rest of these giveaways. But don't forget to comment on this video, what is your favorite space-themed movie that is not Star Trek or Star Wars? Otherwise, keep an eye out for that next video, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.